Hey, hi everyone. Let's go ahead and get started. It is 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Welcome to the Choose Yogurt that is lower in added sugars in the CACFP webinar. My name is Katie Hallis. I'm a nutritionist with USDA's Team Nutrition. And during this webinar, just so you all know, I'm going to be saying CACFP a lot, which of course we know means the Child and Adult Care Food Program. All right, so we want to make sure that everyone can hear us. So we did put the audio dial information on the screen here for those of you that are having trouble hearing us through your computer speakers. We do also have closed captioning available. To view captions, simply click on the closed caption button on the bottom of your screen and the captioning should appear. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted at a later date on our Team Nutrition website. Everyone who is registered for this webinar will receive an email once the recording is available. So the chat box is disabled for this webinar, but you can use the Q&A box at any time throughout the webinar to enter and ask your questions. To access this function, click on the three dots located at the bottom of your screen, and then click Q&A, and you should be able to type in your question. Please just remember to direct your questions to all participants from that drop-down menu. And we're going to try our best to answer as many questions as we can today at the end of the webinar. But please know if we're not able to get to all of them during the live webinar today, we do read all of them and they do help us help to inform future training materials. So thank you in advance for your questions. Team Nutrition is an initiative of the USDA Food and Nutrition Service that supports child nutrition programs, including the National School Lunch Program, School Breakfast Program, and of course, the CACFP. The goal of Team Nutrition is to improve children's lifelong eating and physical activity habits through nutrition education based on the principles of the dietary guidelines for Americans and MyPlate. It does so through training and technical assistance for those preparing and serving meals, providing nutrition education for children, and also building support for healthier school and childcare environments. So as many of you may know, on April 25th, 2024, USDA did publish a final rule titled Child Nutrition Programs, Meal Patterns Consistent with the 2020-2025 Dietary Guidelines for Americans, which finalize practical, science-based, and long-term school nutrition requirements based on the goals of the dietary guidelines, as well as extensive stakeholder input and lessons learned from prior rulemakings. While school meal standards are impacted to the greatest degree through this final rule, there are certain provisions that also impact CACFP operations. So for the CACFP, this final rule updates the current limits on total sugars in breakfast cereals and yogurts to limits on added sugars in those items to align with school meal programs. CACFP operators, you all have already successfully implemented product-based sugar limits over the years, and this rule updates these limits from total sugars to added sugars based on dietary guidelines recommendations, and the fact that added sugars information is now available on the nutrition facts label. So this change represents a different way of measuring sugar in the CACFP. All breakfast cereals and the majority of yogurts that were able to be served under the total sugars limit will also meet the added sugars limit. So by October 1st, 2025, so next year, CACFP operators are required to meet the following product-based added sugars limits. Breakfast cereals must contain no more than 6 grams of added sugars per dry ounce. And yogurt must contain no more than 12 grams of added sugars per 6 ounces. In other words, 2 grams of added sugars per ounce. The current total sugars limit for breakfast cereals and yogurts will remain in place through September 30th of 2025, so next year. However, with state agency approval, CACFP operators may choose to implement the added sugars limit early. And I'd also like to point out that earlier this year, USDA did publish a final rule updating nutrition requirements for the food packages in the Women, Infants, and Children's Program, also known as WIC. The USDA community was vocal about the desire for CACFP sugar limits to align with WIC product-based sugar limits. We listened and collaborated with WIC in the development of both of these final rules, so the limits do align. Therefore, CACFP operators may continue to use states' updated WIC lists to help identify not only allowable breakfast cereals, but now yogurts that meet these added sugar limits. Okay, so today's topic is choose yogurt that is lower in added sugars in the CACFP. As I mentioned on the previous slide, by October 1st of 2025, yogurt must contain no more than 12 grams of added sugars per 6 ounces. You can use any state's updated WIC list to find yogurt that meets this added sugars limit. But you can also find yogurts that meet the added sugars limit by using Team Nutrition's Choose Yogurt that is lower in added sugars in the CACFP training worksheet, which will be the focus of the rest of today's session. This webinar is going to give you a sneak peek into an updated training worksheet. Unfortunately, it's currently not on our website, but it will be very soon. At the end of today's webinar, we're going to mention how to sign up for our e-newsletter so you can be notified when that training worksheet and others are available. And also check back on our website too. For more information about the implementation timeline for the final rule titled Child Nutrition Programs, Meal Patterns Consistent with the 2020-2025 Dietary Guidelines for Americans, please check out the URL or scan the QR code on the screen. Okay, so let's get started. So there are 4 steps that you can follow to determine if a yogurt meets the added sugars limit. The first step is to use the nutrition facts label and find the serving size of the yogurt in ounces or in grams. As you see here on the image of the training worksheet, the serving size on this label is listed in ounces and in grams. Many yogurts will list both, but some containers will only list ounces, while others will only list grams. Sometimes the label may also say 1 container, and then you'd have to look at the weight of the container, which you can usually find on the front of the package or container of yogurt. Okay, so let's pause and try a practice question. So take a look at the nutrition facts label on your screen here. And what do you think the serving size of this yogurt is? So a poll should have popped up on your screen. Go ahead and select the answer you think it is. Your answer choices are 4 ounces, 6 ounces, 8 ounces, or 130 ounces. And I'll give you a few seconds. I'm going to check out the poll. I see lots of answers coming in. All right, I'm going to give you 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Time is up. Let's check those responses. Great. So the majority of you all got the answer right. The answer is 6 ounces. The serving size of this yogurt is 6 ounces, as indicated on that serving size line on the nutrition facts label there at the top. Great job. So once you find the serving size, you can move on to that second step, which is to look at the added sugars line on the nutrition facts label to find the amount of added sugars in 1 serving of yogurt. So I'm going to pause here. We're going to do another polling question. How much added sugar is in 1 serving of this yogurt? Go ahead and select your answer. Don't forget to click submit, which I think I forgot to tell you before, so that your answer registers. Your answer choices are 4 grams of added sugars in 1 serving, 10 grams, 21 grams, or 40 grams. I'll give you guys a few seconds to put in your answer. Remember to click submit to to send those answers in. All right, I see some good ones coming in. All right, 5 more seconds, guys. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Time is up. Let's see those responses. Great. So you guys got it right. The correct answer is 10 grams. So there are 10 grams of added sugars in one serving of this yogurt. So now take the serving size of the yogurt and then see what row it belongs in the table shown on the screen. So you can see here that the serving sizes are listed in the table in ounces, and and at the top of that column, it's circled in blue. So this table also lists serving sizes in grams, and there is a red square at the top of that column. So you can use either the ounces column or the grams column in this step. You do not need to use both. The serving sizes in this table shows the most common serving sizes for yogurt. Okay, so we know from step 1 that the serving size of this yogurt is 6 ounces. So that's circled here. And we're going to need this for step 4. So step 4 is our last step. And it's the last step to look at the amount of added sugars in the table listed next to the serving size. So in this example, we said the serving size of the yogurt is 6 ounces. So we find 6 ounces in the table, and then we look at the amount of added sugars in that same row under the added sugars column. For this yogurt, this number is 12 grams. This means that if the amount of added sugars in this 6 ounces of yogurt is 12 grams or less, then the yogurt meets the added sugars limit. Remember from step 2 and shown on the nutrition facts label on the screen that there are 10 grams of added sugars in this yogurt. And the maximum amount of added sugars this yogurt can contain is 12 grams. So do you all think that this yogurt meets the added sugars limit? And a poll should pop up on your screen. Click yes if you think the yogurt meets the added sugars limit in the CACFP. Click no if you think the yogurt does not meet the added sugars limit in the CACFP. I see lots of responses coming in. Good job, guys. Make sure you're hitting submit to make sure it registers. All right, 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Time is up. Let's check those responses. Great, guys. Nice work. So the answer is yes. This yogurt does meet the added sugars limit in the CACFP for yogurt. So as you can see on the table, the maximum amount of added sugars allowed in 6 ounces of yogurt is 12 grams. Because this yogurt only has 10 grams of added sugars per 6 ounces, it is below the limit of 12 grams of added sugars. Therefore, it meets the added sugars limit for yogurt in the CACFP. So once the worksheet is available on our website, you will be able to see that on the back of the worksheet at the bottom of the page, you can check your work on your own once this worksheet is available. And the back of the worksheet also has a more extensive list of serving sizes than what's on the front. On the bottom, you can also write down the brand and type of creditable or allowable yogurts that you have found and would like to serve. Okay, you guys did such a great job that I want to give you some time to do a few more practice questions. So here you see the nutrition facts label for a yogurt that we are calling A brand strawberry yogurt. I know it's a very creative name. To take a look, so take a look at the nutrition facts label on the screen. And do you think that this meets the added sugars limit of 12 grams of added sugars per 6 ounces? Good. I see you guys using that, pulling and submitting your questions. So click yes if you think it does meet the added sugars limit. Click no if you think it does not. All right, guys. Let's see. I don't think I have a response on my, there we go. All right, so nice work, everyone. It's not showing up on the screen here. Oh, there we go. So the answer is no, which a lot of you got. A brand strawberry yogurt is not creditable because it does not meet the CACFP added sugars limit, as it is more than 12 grams of added sugars per 6 ounces. Okay, so let's talk about how we got there. Figure out if this yogurt meets the added sugars limit. We looked at the serving size on the nutrition facts label, which is 6 ounces, as shown in the blue circle on that nutrition facts label. We then looked at the added sugars line on the nutrition facts label to determine how much added sugar is in one serving of this yogurt, which is 13 grams. This is shown by the green rectangle on that nutrition facts label. We then looked at the table to find the serving size for this yogurt. A serving of this yogurt is 6 ounces, so the maximum amount of added sugars allowed is 12 grams. Since this yogurt has 13 grams of added sugars, and we know 13 is more than 12, we know that this yogurt does not meet the added sugars limit for yogurt in the CACFP. All right, great job on that one, guys. Let's do another example. This time, the serving size we have of this yogurt is in grams. So the yogurt of this question has 7 grams of added sugars in a serving size of 113 grams. Does this yogurt meet the added sugars limit? You know, it's a little tricky. We don't have the table on here, but do your best and we'll talk it through in just a little bit. So go ahead and click yes if you think the yogurt meets the sugar limit for yogurts in the CACFP. Click no if you think it does not meet the added sugars limit for yogurt in the CACFP. Good job, guys. I see a few answers coming in. Don't be shy. We're going to talk about it in just a little bit. So go ahead and click the answer you think and hit submit. All right, guys, 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Time is up. Let's check those responses. Great. So you're correct. Everyone got that one right for the most part. The answer is B, brand peach yogurt meets the added sugars limit. And I'm going to explain the answer on the next slide. You guys did a great job with that one. So to figure out if this yogurt met this added sugars limit, we looked at the serving size on the nutrition facts label, and the serving size is 113 grams, as shown in the blue circle. We then looked at the added sugars line on the nutrition facts label to see how much added sugar is in one serving of this yogurt, which is 7 grams. So this is shown in the green rectangle on that nutrition facts label. We then looked at the table to find the serving size of this yogurt. We said the serving size of the yogurt is 113 grams. So the maximum amount of added sugars allowed is 8 grams. Since this yogurt has 7 grams of added sugars and 7 is less than 8, we know that this yogurt meets the added sugars limit for yogurt in the CACFP. Okay, so after you've done that, this is what your worksheet might look like after this activity. You can continue to add to this list as you find additional creditable or allowable yogurts you may serve in your program. You will notice that we did not add A brand strawberry yogurt to this list since it did not meet the added sugars limit. Because we know that yogurt formulations can change from time to time, we also include a note on the worksheet just reminding users to check the nutrition facts label on the yogurt often to make sure the yogurt meets the added sugars limit. Okay, so now let's take a second and we're going to talk about servings per container on a nutrition facts label. So the first line of the nutrition facts label is servings per container. This shows the total number of servings in the entire food package or container. Be aware that one package of food may contain more than one serving. For example, when you look at the servings per container line, circled in blue on the screen, it shows that there are 2 servings of yogurt in this container. So if you serve more than 1 serving, you are also serving more calories, more added sugars, and other nutrients. For example, if you're offering 1 serving of the 6-ounce yogurt shown on the left of the slide, you'd be offering 120 calories and 9 grams of added sugars just in this one particular example or brand of this yogurt. However, if you serve 2 servings or 12 ounces of that same yogurt shown on the right hand side of the slide, then the 2 servings contain 240 calories and 18 grams of added sugars. So again, if you serve more than what the serving size is on the nutrition facts label, then you are also serving more calories, more added sugars, and other nutrients. So just be sure to take that into consideration. So all Team Nutrition materials are available online from Team Nutrition's website and are available for free download to anybody who is interested. For all participating in a child nutrition program, such as the CACFP, Team Nutrition's print materials are free to order. If you would like to order Team Nutrition's free materials in print, you can go to the resource order form link on the Team Nutrition website to order print copies of the materials. For bulk orders, go ahead and email us at teamnutrition@usda.gov. Okay, so that concludes the informational portion of our webinar today. If you are watching this webinar live, you will receive a certificate for attending the webinar for the entire 30 minutes. Certificates will be emailed to you by Thursday, October 3rd at the latest. You may need to check your spam folder for your certificate. Sometimes it sneaks in there. If you are watching this as a recorded webinar, you can receive a certificate by going to the National CACFP Sponsors Association website at www.cacfp.org/USDA-webinars to complete the post-webinar practice questions and then receive a certificate. The certificates may be sent a few days after completing the questions. All right, so now we're going to answer a few questions. With me today, you're going to hear a new voice. It is my teammate, Xaviera Davis, who is here to help me ask and answer some of the questions you guys have.
Hi, Katie. The first question we have is, what are some of the best yogurt brands or types to purchase?
Yeah, we get this question a lot, so thank you for that one. So USDA does not maintain a list of approved or acceptable yogurt brands. However, USDA has verified that there are products currently available to meet the product-based added sugars limit. An easy way to identify yogurt that meet these added sugars limits is to use the training worksheet that we talked about today, but also using any state agency's updated WIC approved food list, because now we know after today's webinar that the WIC product-based added sugars limits for yogurt now mirror added sugars limits for yogurt in the CACFP.
Okay. The second question we have is, will the training slides under the CACFP Training Tools webpage be updated to reflect the new changes?
Yes, so Team Nutrition, we're currently updating our resources on a rolling basis to reflect the final rule. As you saw today, we have our CACFP training worksheet titled Choose Yogurt That is Lower in Added Sugars in the CACFP, which is going to be available on our website soon in English and in Spanish. We do have a Spanish webinar after this one at 3 p.m. Eastern time. If anybody is interested in joining, it's the same content, so feel free to join us for that. If you'd like to learn about announcements like new and updated training worksheets or other materials, including training slides and the webinar recording, please sign up for our e-newsletter to hear about those things. You can go to our website. So you'll see it at the top of the screen here, which is teamnutrition.usda.gov. And if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of that page, you're going to see a box that says sign up for updates. And in there, you can put your email address and select any of your preferences.
Okay, and then another question we received is, does Team Nutrition have any resources for parents or young children on added sugars?
We do. So as part of Team Nutrition's, we have parent newsletters that are titled Nibbles for Health, parent newsletters collection, and there's one actually titled Developing Healthy Habits with Less Sugar that was released around this same time last year. It may help CACFP providers talk about added sugars with parents of young children. And we're defining young children with this collection as ages 3 to 5. This newsletter is available in English and in Spanish. And if I have time in just a little bit, I will drop those links in the chat box. But if you go to our Team Nutrition website and just search for Nibbles for Health, it should pop up. What other questions do we have, Xaviera?
Another question that we have is, are there USDA limits for fat content in yogurt? And if so, what are they? So at this time, there are no USDA limits for fat content related to yogurt. So we don't have anything to add for that. The fat content that we do have right now pertain to milk, which is, the low fat and fat-free milk options.
Great, thank you.
Another question we have is colorants in yogurt allowed or not? And as far as colorants, I am going to assume the person is referring to like additives, the colorings that are added to foods. So currently there are no specific USDA FNS regulations related to colorants. Any regulations from that area would come from the FDA.
Great, thank you. And Zara, I saw one question here, a logistical one on if we have more than one person registered but are sharing a computer, how do we get the other people credit for their attendance? So as I mentioned, you're gonna receive an email with the certificate no later than October 3rd, and check your spam box for that, inbox for that. But once you get that certificate, you can share it with the person that's viewing this webinar with you. There's no problem there on that. And then we received
also, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
There were a lot of questions in the Q&A asking for specific implementation dates from WIC and when WIC would be updating their resources. So I did drop the link to that WIC website that talks about the updated food packages in the chat. And we encourage you to just continue to check the WIC websites for their updated resources and more information about the new food packages and implementation dates.
Great, thank you. And then we have this one question here that says the example of 2 servings in the 6-ounce yogurt. So if I serve the entire 6-ounce cup, does the sugar total double? So no. So if that yogurt is 6 ounces and it says servings per container is 1, then the amount of added sugars on that label would not double. It would be that amount that's on the label. All right. And then one other question we do get often that I want to mention is this added sugars limit in addition to the total sugars limit that's currently placed on breakfast cereals and yogurt in the CACFP? And the answer is no. So this added sugars limit is replacing that total sugars limit. So by October 1st, 2025, so next year, the product-based limits are set for added sugars, not total sugars. All right, guys. Thank you all for your time today and for all your wonderful questions. I'm sorry if we were unable to answer your question live, but hopefully we got most of them. Please know that we do review all of them and keep track of them to help inform our future training materials. So thank you all for your time and attention today, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.